Hey everyone, it's Chris, the host of Is It Just Speculation? What if I told you that you can make your very own podcast for free and you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership required? That's Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast, and that's what I use. It has all the tools that you need in one place so you can record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. So you can work on the go or you can work at home in the comfort of your PJs. That's what I do sometimes. Don't tell nobody though. Anchor also distributes your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more places all around the world within a matter of moments. That's the beauty of Anchor. It really lets you have a message and get it out there. You have your own voice, guys. It's everything that you need to make a podcast in one convenient place. Please download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You're missing out if you don't. Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is Chris, and it's just speculation. Stick around for more. So today we have our very first guest, and I'm very thankful that they agreed to be part of the podcast and share their work, their story. And the story is always impactful as far as why somebody does what they do. It's a lot of time, dedication, and focus, and it's not easy. From what I understand, this has been a long time coming as far as the work that they've been doing. They've been working towards this for years and years. So just to give you a little bit of background information about Hannah, Hannah Mosley is the CEO and founder of Abundance Homes. So what does Abundance Homes do? Well, what they do is provide a safe, stable, consistent support through residential housing for single mothers 25 and under. They utilize career training, therapy, life skills training, and higher education. Their homes create and maintain a foundation for positive outcomes for both immediate and generational participants. So Hannah is actually a licensed social worker and mother with 6 years of experience working in inpatient behavioral health and group home settings. Her experience as a social worker spans over 10 years and includes crisis intervention, hospital, and school social work. She's also dealt with individual and group counseling, career coaching, young adult mentoring, and positions with state agencies, frequently utilizing residential placement, including Department of Child Safety investigations and Phoenix Children's Hospital. Definitely want to thank you for taking the time, because I know it's, the Abundance Homes is your baby and you don't want to, waste time if you don't have to. So I appreciate you taking the time and just talking about it. And I'm hopeful that it can reach a lot of people, both here where I'm at and also where you're at. So definitely appreciate it. Mm-hmm. So if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Mm-hmm. So I actually have a home in Phoenix, Arizona area. It targets single parents, 25 and under. They're allowed to stay in the home with a child in their care, or the child could be residing elsewhere, meaning they could be in Department of Child Safety custody with a family member, with the dad. But as long as they have a child, they're permitted to stay in my home. I'm licensed for about 10 women right now in my West Valley home. So we provide on-site career training. We have people come in that do counseling, group therapy. They educate on self-care. We have training for just higher education, and also just, basic life skills and parenting. So.
Okay. Yeah. One of the things that really got my attention when I found out about what you did was helping single mothers, especially. A lot of people don't know, but whenever me and my siblings were young, we had to stay at a Women's Protective Services house. And that was for part of the school year. So it wasn't a long time, but that was something that helped my mom whenever she needed it. And that actually got us kind of on track to where we needed to be at that point in time. So what you were doing was a lot like that in the way of helping single moms and kids kind of get back on track and get their life to where they want it to be. So that really caught my attention. Why single moms for you? How did that come about?
So I'm actually a single parent. So I have my son, he's 8, and I was actually very blessed to have a home that I grew up in and learned a lot about parenting. My parents were very supportive when it came to pursuing higher education and getting a good job, pursuing a career. And that was the foundation I had before I had my son. I can't imagine raising my son alone without that foundation and background. So I want to, I guess, kind of push it forward and provide that foundation for other moms that are parenting. I was definitely blessed, like I said, and I can't imagine not having that foundation.
Yeah, there's a lot of single parents in general, but especially moms that really don't have, especially like the daycare thing. That's a big thing that I hear a lot of my friends, they can't get a job because they can't work certain hours from having that. Is that something that your program helps with? Like if they go and get a job, do y'all provide daycare and other services like that?
So we do provide childcare, which is a big deal. So we have staff at the home. So if you do come to the home with a child, we provide activities and we're able to watch them. So at least that's a load, like one less thing to focus on as you're pursuing either education or getting established in your job.
So this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is all free to them. Like there's no charge at all, or is there like a minimal fee that they pay to go towards the group in general?
Mm-hmm. So we have a few options. The first one is through insurance. So say if you have a mental health concern, we are able to have the insurance cover your stay at the home. So that is completely free for the resident. The second option is self-pay. So I'm not contracted yet with every insurance plan out there. So we do based on income, a
Okay.
sliding scale fee. So it's still pretty cheap. It's not expensive. And the third option is to be sponsored. So I do reach out to the community here in Phoenix, Arizona, and we get a lot of support and donations. And people are able to sponsor residents, and that's been a huge benefit to a few of the ladies staying in my home.
That's awesome. Is there any reason why it's in Arizona specifically? Was that just more friendly for what you're trying to do, or maybe you just ended up going to, your school there, and that's kind of where your roots are?
So I was born in California, but we moved to Sedona, Arizona when I was young. So my family, everything is kind of here in Arizona. I did move out. I worked actually in Texas for a while with Department of
Okay.
Child Safety out there before returning to Arizona. But family's here. Most of my work history has been here and most of my connections. And so that's kind of just why I started out this way.
How did all this start? Like, is this something you've been doing for years and years? I think from what I understood, it's something that you've been working on pretty much ever since college. Is it something that
Mhm.
you started even before then, or like how did that come about?
So I'm a social worker, so I've been going to school for that. So my passion has always been a specific demographic, so lower income and minorities. And during school, I actually interned, and right after school, I was employed with Department of Child Safety. So I saw a side of kids being removed from the home that had to, I guess, do with just lack of education and lack of knowledge on the side of the parents, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So I wanted to kind of get to the root of the issue and help support moms and parents in general that were having difficulty parenting. So yeah, definitely. After I left school, I got involved in group homes, child safety, and my passion kind of grew from. So it's always been a goal, I guess, from age 21. So.
yeah. It sounds like that'd be a tough job to do just for any kind of dealing with families and kids, and maybe not a great situation. I feel like a lot of people might get turned off by doing that for so many years. Is that something that you ever faced where you thought maybe this isn't something I want to do every day because it maybe is a little bit depressing?
Um, I do feel I have gotten overwhelmed um, at some points throughout my career since I'm now 31, so I've been doing this
Yeah.
for about 10 years now. But I don't think I've ever been put off or discouraged when it comes to helping others. So that's been my primary focus. And I love hearing the success stories of individuals I've worked with in the past. That's always encouraging, and it kind of fuels my drive to continue. So, yeah, I've gotten overwhelmed off and on, but definitely not discouraged because I've seen so many success stories, and I know what I'm doing is going to help a lot of other people in the long run. So it's encouraging, motivating, and yeah, pretty exciting. So,
Do you remember like your first success story where you were like, wow, this is making a difference? Like it's something that you can actually visibly see instead of just a thought.
Are you talking specific to the home or just throughout my? Um,
Either the home or maybe a person that, was the first person that you actually saw succeed and break through, that struggle of not being able to get past whatever it was they were dealing with.
mm-hmm. So the home is pretty new. I've only had it open since actually the beginning of the year. So I'm still working
Okay.
with a lot of the ladies. I haven't had enough time to really see that outcome with them. But one story that does come to mind is when I was a young social worker at Child Safety. It was actually a single mom I was working with. She had 3 kids outside of her care, living with family, and she was struggling with substance use. She had a lot of unresolved trauma and mental health concerns, and just no one that really took the time to find out what was going on. So she was facing a lot of barriers when it came to housing, finding and keeping a job. And on top of that, having to go to classes, having to maintain her visitation schedule with the kids. She had court she had to attend, just a whole lot. And she lacked transportation. She had no support. She was actually she had family living out of state, so just no support.
Yeah.
And I recall really sitting down with her, helping her with each each little thing she had to navigate. And she ended up getting her kids back within 9 months of them being removed, which, if you're familiar with child safety, a lot of cases involving kids being taken out of the home can take about 12 months to 24 months. They can take a long time to resolve. And she hustled and was motivated. I was able to help her, and she got them back, really quick, even with all those barriers. So that's definitely a story that is inspiring and sticks with.
Yeah, I feel like that would encourage anybody to keep on the path that they're, working on. If you can see the actual change happening, and maybe 2 years faster than it normally would have. So that's pretty great. You started this, or you got the house, I should say, this year. Was the pandemic making it a little bit harder than it probably would have been? Have you had to like navigate any ways around it?
So the pandemic for me was actually a little beneficial, just because it allowed me to slow down and focus on this goal I had. So I was able to really develop my business plan, get everything in place to get the home licensed. And so it allowed me to slow down my own schedule and get it up and running. I know it was needed during the pandemic, so I immediately had a wait list of women that needed housing. So that
One
was
thing.
good that I was in place to help them.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say one thing that is important. I feel like, and maybe I think you do some of these kind of courses with the moms, is just like financial management. One thing that maybe came up this year was the stimulus payments and the early income tax payments. Are you like actively teaching them how to manage the money while they have it? Because I know a lot of people may have got extra money that they didn't expect this year. And, some of those people chose to invest it. Some of them just put in savings. Some of them, went and got things that maybe they didn't need. Was there any kind of like management for maybe what they should focus on with that money?
Yes. So we actually partner with a financial counselor, and they work with the city housing here in Phoenix, Arizona. So they'll come out 1 to 2 times a month and work with the ladies on budgeting and developing those skills, help them develop goals and just long-term plans, and then teach them about financial options. It goes as basic as opening a bank account, all the way to investing, credit score, buying that first home. So they've been amazing. But we definitely, yes, that's very important. So we definitely implement that in the home and have someone come out for that.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to do anything without a decent credit score. Is that something that you like have any tips with, that you like maybe, hey, go get a credit card and only use it for this type of thing, or is it a certain thing that you've learned that works best for trying to help people with their credit scores? Because I know a lot of people that are doing pretty well off, but their credit score is real low. Is that something you can share with us?
Mm-hmm. So I know we try and meet the patient where they're at, or the resident kind of where they're at. So everyone's score, what they're struggling with, is a little different. I know the main recommendation we make is maintain savings. Focus on savings, focus on the overall picture of where you want to see yourself in your finances. And then based on that, we kind of break down into the different areas of either expanding what savings they have, or expanding, increasing their income, whether it be a credit card, just kind of whatever the goals are. I don't have any specific recommendations on the credit score area, but we do have someone that if the resident needs that, they are in the home and able to give advice and input specific to them. So that's
I think you might have mentioned him with someone you were partnering with. It's New Way Behavioral Health. What do they do, and how did that partnership come about?
Okay, so yeah, we do partner with New Way Behavioral Health. They actually provide case management services. So they help when it comes to enrolling in school for either the resident or the resident's child. They help with long-term treatment planning. So if the resident is wanting to get a house, they start helping with those applications. When it comes to state-funded assistance programs like WIC, we have food and nutrition assistance programs. They just sit down with the residents, continue to meet with them, and make sure those applications are processed and those supports and services are in place for the residents.
Okay, yeah, that's really great, because I know, personal experience dealing with, filling out forms for the government type of programs, that can be a little tricky sometimes, especially if you're, a young parent, and maybe you're trying to get on SNAP or something. It's really hard to know how to navigate that if you've never done it before. So to hear like a program to help them, I'm sure that comes in handy a lot.
Oh, it does. It's so helpful. And a lot of little documents that you need for those applications, a lot of the residents don't have. So they assist in getting that. Something as basic as ID has been, or even a birth certificate has been, a lot of the parents or residents to navigate and make sure they have that on hand. So A New Way has been great, helping us obtain those records and just helping the residents get those applications and everything processed.
So you team up with them, and also the financial team ups that you do. Is there any other partnerships that you have that help with the program?
So I have a dietitian that actually provides education to the residents on nutrition for themselves and their kids, healthy meals, and she provides a meal for the home. So all the meals prepared at the group home, we kind of outline them based on the week and the month, and that education is so important, teaching parents how to eat right and then how to feed their kids appropriately. So we partner with a dietitian. We have an individual that comes out to the home and provides self-care classes. So anything from like facials to journaling, making vision boards, even massaging or stress and pressure spots she will provide some education and just kind of a group focused on different self-care techniques.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm sure everybody's loving it so far. Have you had any trouble trying to select the right applicants, or is there like a pretty set process with who gets to be selected? Because I know that must be hard to see, what I would imagine a lot of applicants come in, but you can only accept a certain amount right now. Is it kind of difficult to pick, who gets to, be first in line?
Right now, we do have a pretty set application process, and it has been difficult. Say, if a resident that would like to stay in the home doesn't have the right insurance or funding, or um, has maybe a child over the age of 12. I didn't mention this in the beginning, but we only accept residents if they have children in their care. The kids have to be 12 and under. So that's been a barrier.
Okay.
And we do prefer the residents be more independent and also willing to attend the groups and the classes we have on site. They really have to have a plan or motivation to either seek higher education or advance in whatever job they have. So we are pretty specific in selecting residents that fit or meet that criteria. So
Right. So, let's say if somebody's maybe not living up to kind of what y'all talked about in the beginning, is it one of those situations where maybe they, hey, this is your chance to really buckle down. If you don't, we're going to have to select somebody else, that kind of thing? Or do you kind of give everybody like a certain amount of time to kind of, start making that change?
We have set expectations that the residents have to agree to prior to actually moving into the home. And so we are pretty strict on ensuring the residents meet those expectations. And if there are violations, we do have a process for transitioning them out of the home. So again, we really screen the residents to make sure they're going to excel and able to actually meet the purpose and everything the program in the house offers. And so in the same way, we're kind of strict when it comes to any violations. So we do have a process to transition them out, and there's facilities kind of similar to ours around Arizona. So we have a few options if they have violated and need to move on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, before your program started, was there other programs like it, or maybe something that was close to what you were kind of aiming for, but maybe was lacking something? And, if there was, what do you feel like you make up that they don't have?
So we do have a few programs in Arizona that offer housing for single parents and mothers. I actually modeled my home after a prominent program here in Arizona. The location of a lot of these homes, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Arizona, but we have a West Valley and an East Valley. And centrals in between, but there wasn't a lot of services for single parents in the West Valley. So my home actually caters to the same demographic, but in the West Valley. Outside of that, I know there's a lot of homeless shelters that take on single parents, but again, it's not specific, and they don't provide the same services in home that I provide to my residents. So that's definitely not something I've seen in Arizona.
Yeah, it seems like your focus on, parents and the kids specifically would be probably one thing that the other programs don't really, focus on, because, providing a place to live is not the same as providing a stable place to live where you actually get to learn skills. And, talking about diet and nutrition, I think that's a big thing too, because for myself personally anyways, I used to always eat out, and that was like eating up my budget. Like I had no idea how much I spent on it until I started looking at my bank account and seeing like the breakdown of, food or entertainment, that kind of thing. So stuff like that makes a huge difference. Is that, aside from the diet, like do you actually teach the parents how to cook? Because I know a lot of people that still don't know how to cook that are, around our age.
No, definitely. I feel like sometimes I'm still learning, but no, we
Yes.
do have we do
Let
have
me
someone.
tell you something. I took out my smoke alarm a few times in my old apartment because I was like, I know I
Um,
can cook, but I can't cook great. So let me take this out.
but no, definitely. I remember even with my son, like I feel like I would cook chicken nuggets all the time, which
Yes.
isn't always negative. So I know with the parents in the home, we teach them the importance of nutrition, what's in food, what to look for, and then we
Mhm.
do have the dietitian come out and do cooking classes with them. So at least they'll have that foundation and
Yeah.
be be able to make those more positive choices. I know um, it's fun to sometimes, eat out, get fast food, all that good
Yeah.
stuff. But if you create a habit of it, then yeah, acknowledging how it's maybe draining your finances, how it's not the best nutrition, or it's not really what your body needs. So providing that education so they can make the choices themselves.
Yeah. Do you have any suggestions? Like, I know with my kids anyway, they love mac and cheese. No matter what I make, it can be like a 5-star course meal. They want mac and cheese. Like, is there a way that y'all teach the kids, like, hey, maybe try some of these, veggies or something?
So I know we educate on having a balanced diet, all of that. And we also have parenting classes, which I feel like kind of relates to this because kids will be kids. They're always going to opt for the ice cream
Yeah.
over the vegetables, even if you sauteed them and seasoned them really well, right? So,
Yes.
teaching parents on how to train your kids and how to maybe make a habit of giving them that healthy and
Yeah.
then maybe they have the ice cream on a weekend or end of night. So I do think that goes into not only making sure they're eating healthy but knowing how to engage and get your kids excited about eating healthy and how to navigate that.
Yeah, one thing we do here is we'll let the kids help us cook because I've noticed if they help us cook the meal, they actually want to eat it more often because they did it and I don't know, I guess they know what they put in
Yeah.
it, which is more comfortable. But we'll do stuff like that, or whenever we cook out, we'll let them, turn stuff over on the grill. So little things like that make a big
That's
difference.
cute, so they get excited about because they're involved. And
Yes, I'll let them flip the weenies on the grill over, and then sometimes they roll away to the back, and they're like, "Well, maybe you can get that one." So yeah, they have their little process, and it helps them eat sometimes a little bit better than they probably would have. Speaking of the families, how involved are you on a day to day with the families, and do you kind of try to make time for each different family that's there?
hmm So I do the initial intake with every resident and come up with their treatment plan. So definitely upon move-in and once I receive that referral, I'm very involved. I start also by connecting them with the different people that are going to be coming into the home, and then I keep up with them every week. So I'll update their treatment plan or review it with them weekly, see how they're doing on their goals, engaging with the different programs in the home. And I am usually at the home at least once a day, but at minimum a week,
Okay.
like every week. So
With so many people kind of in close quarters, do you ever have to focus on conflict resolution and maybe everybody comes from different backgrounds and different ways of handling stressful situations or situations in general? Is that something that you focus on with part of the therapies?
nope, definitely getting along. And I know we have meetings throughout the week for conflict resolution with the residents. A whole bunch of people in a closed space with kids definitely is going to highlight differences in the way people respond to things and engage with each other. So that's definitely an ongoing thing we have to manage. We do have staff and mentors in the home for the residents that help redirect as needed or really help with the conflict resolution. And then yeah, we have like the therapeutic groups and um, if needed, house meetings. So
Okay. Is something that you do kind of like a peer-to-peer type training where maybe somebody's been in the house a little bit longer than the previous person or the new person, and maybe they kind of take them under their wing and kind of showcase what they've learned?
So that is actually a goal that we want to implement because a lot of the residents are newer. Still, the home hasn't been open as long enough to really implement that yet.
Okay.
But that is a hope down the line. So once a resident has been there over the 6-month time period, we do want them to begin mentoring other residents.
So with everything that you're doing, I believe you have plans to expand. Is that expanding the age group or just the housing? I think you mentioned on the website maybe looking into an apartment complex.
Yes. So my goal is to, right now, I mentioned I do have just the 10 beds. I'm licensed for 10 residents. So I do want to expand that and have more of a campus type feel
Okay.
and have more residents able to receive services from us. So that's definitely my goal. But we're starting small, getting the program really in place and going from there.
Okay. One thing I kind of want to ask about is there any worry that your program gets a little bit too big? Because I know there's a lot of programs out there where maybe they get a little bit too big and they start to let people fall between the cracks, whether that's like on a one-on-one basis or just having too many people to manage. Is that something you kind of worry about or maybe have a plan to prevent?
I'm definitely hoping with a lot of the programs we partner with, like a New Way, our dietitian, the therapeutic individuals that come out and lead groups, that they're able to provide an increase of services as we expand. I definitely don't want anyone falling between the cracks. So I do think right now we have a good plan in place. And as we continue to expand, I don't see that happening, but it's going to be kind of one step at a time. And if needed, connecting with a lot of programs around Phoenix to provide services that we need for the residents. So.
Okay. One thing you mentioned was you're a single mom yourself, and you had already been started on the path before you had your child. Was there a point once you became a parent where you maybe started seeing some things that you didn't know before? Because you can, hear about other people's struggles, but until you actually experience it, maybe you don't really fully understand it. Has there been anything that's kind of opened your eyes to, oh, now I understand better, what they were struggling with?
Oh, yes, definitely. So most of my time working for child safety, even undergrad doing my internship, I would definitely see situations and respond like everyone does based on their experience. Since having my son, I was able to acknowledge firsthand how difficult it is to go to work or even maintain consistency at work without childcare or without consistent childcare. Something as simple as him getting sick means that you're missing a day because you have to be home to care for him. So big barriers like that, seeing it firsthand and going through that definitely opened my eyes to the struggle. And like I said, I was blessed with family and support here close by. So I have that to fall back on, but I'm acknowledging, or I did acknowledge during that time, that a lot of parents don't. So that definitely kind of fueled my motivation to support and open this home.
Yeah. Do you have any suggestions for single mothers that maybe don't have daycare, or don't have any family that can watch them, and maybe don't have access to a program like yours? Because even if there is programs, the chances that they can get in right away are kind of slim. But you still have to go get a job, pay the bills, that kind of stuff. Do you have any suggestions that they might do, in the meantime?
So I know one I guess kind of basic recommendation would be looking into the state assistance programs that do offer child care assistance. So if you're just struggling with finding or obtaining or even covering the cost of a daycare, most states do offer assistance with that. So starting there. Second would be networking, reaching out to your community, or starting to build connections. So I know in Arizona, there's a few single parent support groups. A few I was able to engage with that provided some support, advice, even childcare exchange type program where maybe you watch someone else's kid and then they can also watch yours. So coming together as a single parent community, that was really helpful. But yeah, starting to build network, get those connections. And there's in my state a website called Arizona 211 where they provide resources if you need childcare options, whether it's exchanging with someone else childcare or a program that offers free daycare or just a place for your kid to go maybe during the day if they need an activity to do. So those are a few things that are beneficial.
What's the process been like learning about all these different programs? Because I mean, you've been in the educational side of it for a while. Is that something that you learned through education, or you had to kind of go out on your own and seek out these organizations that work best with what you're trying to do?
Mm-hmm. So it's been both. A lot I've learned from working closely with a lot of these systems, and a few other connections and resources I found have been people and organizations that have reached out when they've heard about my program and what I'm trying to do. So that's been amazing, finding a lot of new and hidden resources available to single parents.
So whenever you're talking about networking, I don't think a lot of people really understand kind of what the benefit or why even you should do networking is, whether that's within your business or within the community. Can you talk about a little bit about networking?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, just finding maybe different people that can provide a service or support that you wouldn't normally have access to, or maybe you didn't even know about. So that can be as simple, I think, as reaching out to a neighbor. Back in the day, you might have gone to a neighbor to get a cup of sugar or something
Yeah.
that you didn't have, right? So reaching out to a neighbor, starting to reach out to people that may have something that you don't have, or maybe advice even, or input, or just some way that they can support you in a capacity that you may not have had access to or weren't familiar with. So networking in that way.
Yeah, that's a
So
good example. Our neighbor actually gave us some cucumbers today. She has a little garden in her backyard.
oh,
So
that's sweet.
yeah, our middle boy loves cucumbers, so he like loses his mind whenever we bring a bag in. So definitely a good example of kind of like the most basic form of networking, just knowing who's around you.
Yes.
Is that maybe something that's kind of been an issue whenever you got the home and maybe the neighbor saw that it's not just a regular house, it's like a residential housing for, a specific group. Was that ever an issue, or has everybody in the neighborhood kind of been okay with it?
So in my area where I open the home, I'm required to go through the city to actually request to be licensed as a group home. So they notify people in the area that my home may be a group home. It needs to be a certain distance from a school. It needs to be a certain distance from another group home. So there's a lot of zoning requirements.
Okay.
So I had to start the process by reaching out to the city and requesting to be a group home. And
So sorry to interrupt. So it wasn't just like an easy process of going and finding a house. You actually had to find a house a certain distance from everything, and also make sure the city was okay with it. Is that what happened?
yes. And so that was step number one, and that took a while. So zoning, and then they have just the house itself. You have to have it inspected by the local fire department. It needs to be up to code. They need to make sure it can handle the number of residents you're trying to get licensed for. And then on top of that, you need to reach out to your state like health department and have an additional layer of licensing. So a lot goes into just getting the home prepared to accept residents.
Were you expecting that kind of like extra, I guess, red tape, for lack of a
No,
better
not at
term?
all. So
Yeah, so it's been a
no, that
learning
was
experience.
that was fun to navigate. Like I said, I've been only fully opened for like a few months now, but the
Yeah.
process of actually going through and getting the house ready took about a year, it, or yeah, a little over a year. So it took a
Wow.
minute updating everything. We had a lot to do to get it ready. But
Yeah, I don't think that's one thing that a lot of people think about when they think about the kind of programs that you're running, because they might think, why aren't they opening more places up, or why aren't they letting more people in? And I don't think they realize that a lot of it's maybe like the government side of it, where you can only do a certain amount, a certain distance. I feel like, just getting that message out might help people understand kind of like why there's a wait list,
oh
why there's
yeah,
not a lot of places.
hmm there's a lot that goes into regulating it, and there's a positive and negative to it. Like I mentioned earlier, I used to work in group homes, so
Mhm.
there's a lot that you have to screen for as far as making sure no resident or staff is like abused, right? That no one's
Yeah.
neglected. So there's layers of protection to make sure that doesn't happen, and then to make sure the building itself doesn't fall down on the residents. There's a lot of positive built into that, but yeah, it does delay it. It does limit the number of homes, or maybe even the people that are motivated to open a home when they're faced with everything they have to do. So I guess there's a positive because it does protect the business and the residents, but then the negative is it does take a while. So it does also limit maybe the amount of homes out there.
Were you able to get the house kind of before the pandemic cost, rose everywhere? Because I know a lot of housing is a lot more expensive than it was a year ago. Were you kind of able to beat that, or?
Mm-hmm. So I actually purchased a home for myself with the goal to open it or turn it into a group home
Mm.
eventually. So when I started looking for a house and buying one for myself, my goal um, was to have it a residential home, have it as a first residential home, and then transition out to my own place. So I had the house maybe 2 years before I actually started making it into the home. So that was a positive for me since I could slowly kind of start working on it
Yeah.
before moving out. So
So whenever you opened the house, you did your own renovations, or did you kind of pay it over time? And with the renovations, was there um, like any kind of special steps you took for the kids? Because I know when we were looking for a house, we were like, we can't have any stairs, we can't have any sharp corners as much as possible. We can't have easy access to like the side of the house for windows, that kind of thing. Because we were just thinking about safety. Was there any kind of concern about how you build the house and like what you include in it, whether that's handicap accessibility or things like that?
So when I looked at the home, I didn't really take that into consideration when I purchased it. But
Mhm.
um, when the state came in and was kind of telling me what needed to happen and change for it to be a licensed home, that's when I had to make those changes and upgrades, if that makes sense. But my
Yes.
demographic, it's also very independent. They have to be mobile. So we didn't have a lot of requirements, say, if I was being licensed as an assisted living facility.
Okay.
So that was a little easier. But no, the state came in and kind of told me, hey, this needs to be fixed. This isn't going to work. And so then I had to start making those renovations and changes to the home.
Okay. So all the kids that live at the place, they all go to the same school, I imagine. Has that been kind of a process to get everybody um, accepted in the school that has the same address, basically? Because I don't know if, on the school side, how they look at X amount of people living in a house, even if it is licensed by the state.
So we partner with a case management agency. They kind of help with that and navigate it. It has not been an issue so far. And I know also with COVID, there's a lot of kiddos that are able to attend school online.
Yeah.
So a lot of the zoning requirements and rules have changed because of the recent pandemic.
Mhm.
So right now, that hasn't been a barrier or issue for us.
That's good. If there, maybe was a case of the virus or even a suspicion of it, does that mean that the whole house has to kind of lock down as far as the kids going to school or the parents going to work? Has that been an issue having so many people in one place?
Yeah, so we do have protocol in place for just viral diseases in
Yes.
the house. So
Yes.
we do have to quarantine residents like to their room, or if something like that happens. So we do have a nurse practitioner that we contract with, who also makes the call and assesses and then makes recommendations for my home
Yeah.
on how that will go down and what it looks like as far as the time frame for isolating the child or the family. And a lot of it is pretty consistent with any protocol in place right now for COVID precautions. So even if you're at work, right, they recommend that 2 week off and having the
Yeah.
test. So a lot of it's pretty much the same. It's consistent with that. So
Speaking of work, I'm not sure if, kind of all the jobs that the people that live there have. Is there a certain type of job that you aim for them to get? And what I mean by that is a lot of people I know that have kids, they choose that don't have daycare, they choose to work a night shift, like an overnight job. Is that something that you kind of maybe try to steer them away from while they have the resources, or are they kind of free to go and get, whatever kind of job they want?
so the one of the main goals of the home is definitely to have the clients embrace their goals. So we want to know what kind of employment they want long term,
Mm.
right? And if that'll be supported by either getting a higher level degree, so going to college, finishing school, or whether it would be applying for a new job or even moving up in the job they have. So all of that is based on what they want long term, and will kind of cater their case management or childcare, all of those services to what their goals are. If they long term do want to work overnight and have a career in mind and that's their preferred schedule, then we want to support them, and we want those long term goals to become reality. So we'll help make that happen. We'll help support that.
Okay. Has there been any other people that had to have work from home? Has that kind of been a
Mhm.
learning experience? Because I know, personally, I've had to work from home for a while now, and that was kind of an easy transition. I had done a little bit of it in the past, but I know a lot of my coworkers maybe didn't catch on as quick. Just working from home is different in a lot of ways. The most obvious being people aren't there to kind of watch you do your work. So, maybe there's distractions. Maybe you have kids at the house. Has there been any kind of learning experience with that?
We have had some residents working from home. We have a space kind of set aside for um, working from home, or even if they're doing school at the house. So they've been able to utilize that space. No issues so far. We'll see how it goes, but I know that that's really common because of the pandemic. I know I had to work from home for a while,
Yeah.
so um, so far all the residents have been respectful of each other. They've been able to utilize that space, and it hasn't um, yeah, it hasn't been an issue.
One thing I was real curious about is leading a program like you do for, specifically single moms with, young kids. Has it been kind of a personal challenge to yourself to maybe kind of fit the role that you want them to see? Maybe just setting the pace, I guess would be a way to put it. Like, have you
Hmm.
felt like a pressure to be the best you?
Um, so I feel like in a way, maybe experience is a really good teacher. So I like
Yeah.
to normalize with a lot of my residents the struggles and the reality of being a single mom. So Recently, I've gone through a lot. I don't know if you noticed, I had a baby who's been in the NICU, so I've been kind of sporadic with my time at the home. My son recently has had some issues with his IEP and his ADHD, so we've been having to navigate and deal with his behavior. And so, actually showing the residents that, hey, life is
Yeah.
difficult, but there's ways you can manage and handle that chaos. I think that's really beneficial. So, um, I don't put as much pressure on myself to be perfect because life is crazy, but
Yeah.
I do want to show them that, hey, there's ways to manage and handle that, which is why we'll have a lot of the groups and why I'll sit and talk with them. I feel like peer mentoring is great, um, and why we'll have a lot of those interventions. So I'm not perfect as a single mom. They're not going to be perfect as a single parent, but there's ways to handle that chaos and still keep going. So,
Yeah, life is definitely messy. One thing that a lot of people probably don't know, maybe just, two or three, whenever I was uh, barely just starting off my own, had my own apartment. I initially lived with somebody for a while. It ended up just being me at one point. So I kind of took on the full bills, full responsibility of the place. I had a pretty unstable job as far as the hours. It was one of those jobs where you might be done in 2 hours, you might be done in 18 hours. So there was like not a real schedule. I had kind of a lack of funds at the time because I was just starting out, didn't really know how to save, didn't really know how to navigate the world really. And one thing that I think is important for a lot of people to know is just um, how to be able to ask for help. Because a lot of
mhm.
times people can't. And in my case, there was a time where I didn't have enough money to get food, and it was a very short time, but it was to the point where I couldn't get the basics. So I would actually, uh, I had to push myself to do it, but I actually went to a food pantry that I was working with our church at the time, and I felt really embarrassed by it. Um, I had to ask, can I have a little bit of food? And they take you through the little room, and you kind of get some things you want. Um, it was so bad at that point that the lady was like, I have some in our employee fridge. I can give you some lunch meat. I think it was like turkey or ham or something like that. And I was super happy with that. And one thing I couldn't tell her because I was like so embarrassed was that I don't have bread. Like I can take that, but I don't have bread. And
Mhm, mhm.
that was a huge challenge for me to kind of get past my own self, my ego, and just say, hey, I need help. This is helpful, but also can I have some bread. Like I couldn't get to that point. So even though I pushed myself, there was still that little part of me that was like, I can't ask for any more help. I already asked for help. Maybe it's
Definitely.
something that you see with the people that you're taking in, kind of that resistance to saying, hey, I need help. Like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I feel like I definitely see that. And I feel like this is why I am so passionate about my program and what I do is connecting moms to resources that maybe they don't know are available. So there's just so many programs out there, I feel, and so many people that want to help and normalize offering that help, that having a lot of these women in this space and providing them access to that has been so empowering for them. Um, we have immediately like a food kitchen that will come out and drop off bags for new residents that move
Yeah.
into the home. And it's something that they want to do, that they enjoy doing, and they get a lot of donations to do that. And so when they came out and talked to the residents, I could tell a few of the ladies were surprised and shocked, like, oh, I shouldn't be embarrassed asking for this. They want to give it, if that makes sense. So, um, just connecting these ladies to those resources and them knowing that there's help available, it's okay to ask, and it's not as much of a stigma like accepting the help. I think that's been awesome.
Yeah, I think just from what I've seen, that's been like a big change in perspective. A lot of people used to, um, if you're using programs to get assistance in any kind, whether that's food stamps or just going and asking for help for, the food pantry, or even asking the church, do you have any extra clothes for maybe our kids? I feel like there's been a shift in kind of the perspective on that. that it's not a bad thing. It's just that you need extra help. One thing I
Yeah.
think that actually helped was a pandemic. In a weird way, it's kind of a good thing that so many people are struggling, because now it's not just that group is struggling, it's everybody struggling. And that maybe kind of opened up everybody's eyes that these things aren't bad. Everybody needs help sometimes.
Yep, everyone does. And I think the main point of help is to, get you on your feet, help you be self sufficient. So, I mean, if that's the goal, the end goal is to be able to do this stuff on your own eventually, right? Accepting help now for that long term goal is not a bad thing. And that should be, acknowledged, and that should be okay. So,
Yeah, and in my personal life, I didn't always have help, but at certain points in my life, I've had help where I really needed it, to where it actually gave me a boost to not have to worry about certain things. Like my car is paid off. I didn't do that all by myself. We have our own house. I didn't do that all by myself. Like there's things that helped along the way that set me up to where I don't need help, and where I can actually help others in times.
yep.
I think that's kind of a big thing that your program teaches other people, is that, if you get a little bit of help, you put yourself in a situation where you can help other people, where maybe you couldn't before, whether that's in a small way or a big way.
Yep, and that's 100% it. And I want to put these moms in a position that long term they're there for their kids and they're setting their kids up for success. So one of my mottos, I'm sorry, is impacting generational cycles. So being able to set yourself up, kind of what you said, so that you can really set your kids up, and that cycle starts off on a very positive path. So.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of parents' goals, is just to, no matter what their situation was or is as an adult or a kid, is just to leave their kids off a little bit better than they were. I think that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
the goal for most people. So to set those plans in motion kind of helps that along. With everything that you're doing at the program, and education wise, and just with the kind of the daily grind of normal life, how have you managed to balance your home and work life? Because that's a challenge for a lot of people, especially if they get too into work, too into school. There's some people that I know that have two jobs and they go to school. And how do you balance time?
I think that goes to maintaining like your support. So having
Yeah.
people that you can lean on, vent with, but then also being like kind and nice to yourself. So acknowledging that you do need self-care, you do need downtime. Um, and if you're not intentional about it, then um, our minds and like our bodies have a way of letting us know that we need it, and so it's gonna happen somehow, whether
Yeah.
it's you feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and breaking down, or you just being intentional about giving yourself that time. So um, I've definitely um, had to slow down and acknowledge that it's okay for everything not to happen now, and it's okay to be slow and take your time with something. Self-care is very important. So
Yeah.
for
I don't know.
self-care.
I don't know what your experience has been with it, but before I had kids, my personal time, my hobbies, my downtime was way different from it is now. And one of the big examples I always point out is I used to go camping, and there was a couple of trips where I would just kind of wing it, and literally I would pull up Google Maps, find a place that looked cool and didn't have any houses, any buildings, nothing around it for miles and miles, and then I would put on my GPS and just go. And when I got
Mhm.
there, maybe it worked out, maybe it didn't. But what I would do basically is just like wing it the whole time and do stuff that I wouldn't do if I had kids. For example, I would climb down some probably not so safe areas. I would get into the river where it maybe wasn't a smart idea by myself. But now that I have kids, I'm like, I'm not going to go out there and do that. Like, I'd be so worried just to get bit by like the wrong kind of spider or something. Have you had any kind of change type of kid?
No, definitely. I feel like yes, kids definitely change your priorities and your
Yeah.
perspective on a lot, which is more like a life stage also. So acknowledging what it is that still makes you um calm or maybe energized, and
Mhm.
finding a way to adapt that to your current like lifestyle and responsibilities. That's a key, and it does take some time to figure that out. But yeah, definitely a shift in mindset when you have kids and new responsibilities. So
Yeah, has there been like a push to have like a outing with the whole group, or maybe just have off days where they can go and kind of do their own thing instead of just constantly being on the grind?
yes, so the house itself is very independent. I'm more general with my requirements for the home, meaning they do have to meet expectations and have a certain amount of hours dedicated to education or parenting classes, but they make up their own schedule. And we do have a lot of self care activities that are recommended or built into the program. So there's no like curfew or strict, I guess, guidelines for the house as long as you're meeting your goals, acknowledging the treatment plan, and being respectful of the home.
Yeah,
They can go out if they really need to and have their free time. They can go on a
yeah.
trip. End of day, they're parents, and I'm just providing education and a place for them to stay. But I want them to be independent and be able to do their own thing. So.
I feel like that's a good balance because a lot of people maybe it's probably the wrong word, but want to be babied. Like they want to know exactly what to do, when to do it, and what not to do. And you kind of giving them the option to make the choice themselves and kind of live with the consequences. Maybe they stay out too late, don't come back, and don't meet their goals. Then that doesn't help their case. Kind
Mhm.
of letting them make their own mistakes. I think that's a great balance that you're putting out there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And they agree to it when they come in, when we do the intake, they know the expectations, and then it goes from there. So we're very strict on making sure they maintain those expectations, or we have to transition out. So end of day, it is their choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we kind of wrap up, just a couple more questions, if that's okay.
Hmm.
All right. So, out of our conversation today and even outside of that, just in the work you do and kind of what you're trying to do, what's the one message that you would want people to take away from our conversation or from the work that you do?
Hmm. Um, just the importance of having a good foundation to create that self sufficiency. So, the importance of being educated or having a good job or having those therapeutic interventions, and how foundational that is when it comes to parenting and your long term goals. So, um, with my work, I provide that foundation, and hopefully generations are impacted, single moms specifically and their kids. So.
Perfect. I definitely think that you combining all the different programs into one place with one support group is the best thing that anybody could really hope for. Because, like you said, there's other programs out there that do specific things that you're doing, but they don't do it all together. And that kind of makes it up to, the person to go and follow through with every single different program. And that's not a lot, a lot of people that can do that, especially on a busy schedule with kids, a normal life. So, for you to put a home where you can kind of put all that in one place and have the resources for everybody to use, I feel like you give everybody the best chance that they can. Is there anything that you feel like you need to do better on, or maybe just start something brand new that you haven't done yet that's really going to push that over the top to where this is a place to be?
Hmm. No, I definitely want to continue to see how the program affects the individual residents there now, and continue to expand so more moms could benefit from this service. I, I do feel like it's going to be an ongoing, something ongoing that I'm always going to be assessing and seeing where we can improve, what services maybe need to be implemented. Um, so I guess right now, increasing those community connections and those people willing to help the residents is a big focus. So.
Okay. One thing I'm doing is putting in the description your your online profiles and your website. But aside from that, how can people best reach you and your program and get the help that maybe they haven't got yet if they want to move over to Arizona, or maybe somebody is in Arizona that is hearing this? And for the people that want to offer help both financially and through volunteering, what's the best way to get a hold of you and kind of start that process?
Okay, so if you visit my website, which will be in the description, but abundancehomes.org, there is a tab for resident referrals. So if you're looking for housing, or maybe even know someone that may be in need of housing, you can complete that form. It goes directly to me, and we can reach out with all the information you provide. There's also an option to get involved. So if you have a service that you provide, or even just want to volunteer in the home or provide some type of service, you can complete that questionnaire and it comes to me, and I'll be able to follow up with you. There is also a donation option. So whether it's gifts in kinds, like goods, foods, anything along those lines, we do have an Amazon wish list on there as well. So if you hit that donation option, you can provide monetary donations or donate items to the home. So those are all ways to get involved from the website.
And just to add on to that, you are a recognized charity that they can put on their taxes as such, correct?
Yes. Yes, we're a not-for-profit, and if you need information on that, that's on the website as well. So we provide those details. So awesome. You do get a tax write-off. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Hannah, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, and especially what you're doing. I was dead set on you being the first guest because you have like such a great program that you're running. As soon as I found out about it, I was like, this is awesome. Like everything that she's doing is just great. Like like I had mentioned before, we stayed at a women's protective service place, which is some way similar to what you're doing, kind of putting people in a path to kind of get where they need to be. But what you're doing is just good work, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day and what sounds like a crazy busy schedule. So definitely appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you for sure. Thank you so much for reaching out and yes, asking about my program and getting information out there.
Not a problem. Well, thank you, Hannah, and I hope you have a good day.
Okay, bye. Talk to you later.
Bye. If you want to learn more or help out with Abundance Homes, you can visit their Facebook page at Abundance Homes Housing and Homeless Shelter, their Instagram at Abundance Homes, or you can visit their website, abundancehomes.org. I highly recommend going to the website. There's a lot of good information about how they operate and what they do. Also, if you go to the website, you can make a donation. So just to read off what the donation is talking about, if you make a donation of any amount, it supports the move-in and stay of a single parent in their housing program. Your donation is tax deductible, as they're recognized as a charitable 501c3 organization by the IRS. So definitely check out their Facebook, Instagram, and their website. And if you feel like donating towards their cause, definitely feel free to do that.